Namaskar, this is CVR English Prime Time and you're watching India Budget Special with me, Anukriti Sharma. It was Budget Day in India, the first budget of Prime Minister Modi's third term. The focus was on jobs and allies. We'll bring you all the headlines, talk about what's in it for the women of the country and why budgets must focus on women. Also how you, the taxpayer, remain the golden goose for the government. And what was the verdict on the budget? Well, it was delivered emphatically and colourfully in the parliament. We'll bring you all of it today. India's union budget is out. The first budget of Modi government's third term. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented it, and with it, she also set a record yesterday. It was her 7th consecutive budget speech, the most by any finance minister in this country. Yes, the 7th. In February, she had delivered an interim budget applicable with the elections, when the elections were being held and the new government was being formed. That's why the term interim. That's why it's called the interim budget. That budget had no major reforms or no significant policy changes. It was along the expected lines. But yesterday's budget unexpectedly follows the same trend. The focus is on the fundamentals with an attempt to address pressing challenges. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, and I quote, "It empowers all sections of the society." Now let's take a look at what the Prime Minister had to say about the budget.
अनगिनत नए अवसर दे देश को विकास की नई ऊंचाई पर ले जाने वाले इस महत्वपूर्ण बजट के लिए मैं सभी देशवासियों को बधाई देता हूं। वित्त मंत्री निर्मला सीतारमण जी और उनकी पूरी टीम बहुत बहुत बधाई की पात्र है। साथियों, ये बजट समाज के हर वर्ग को शक्ति देने वाला बजट है। ये देश के गांव, गरीब किसान को समृद्धि की राह पर ले जाने वाला बजट है। पिछले 10 वर्षों में 25 करोड़ लोग गरीबी से बाहर निकले हैं। ये जो न्यू मिडिल क्लास बना है, यह बजट उनके सशक्तिकरण की निरंतरता का बजट है। ये नौजवानों को अनगिनत नए अवसर देने वाला बजट है। इस बजट से शिक्षा और स्किल को नई स्केल मिलेगी। ये मिडिल क्लास को नई ताकत देने वाला बजट है। ये जनजातीय समाज, दलित, पिछड़ों को सशक्त करने की मजबूत योजनाओं के साथ आया है। इस बजट से महिलाओं की आर्थिक भागीदारी सुनिश्चित करने में मदद मिलेगी। इस बजट से छोटे व्यापारियों, एमएसएमईज को, यानी कि लघु उद्योगों का, उसकी प्रगति का नया रास्ता मिलेगा। बजट में देश को विकास की नई ऊंचाई पर ले जाने वाले इस महत्वपूर्ण बजट के लिए मैं सभी देशवासियों को बधाई देता हूं। वित्त मंत्री निर्मला सीतारमण जी और उनकी पूरी टीम बहुत बहुत बधाई की पात्र है। साथियों, ये बजट समाज के हर वर्ग को शक्ति देने वाला बजट है। ये देश के गांव, गरीब किसान को समृद्धि की राह पर ले जाने वाला बजट है। पिछले 10 वर्षों में 25 करोड़ लोग गरीबी से बाहर निकले हैं। ये जो न्यू मिडिल क्लास बना है, यह बजट उनके सशक्तिकरण की निरंतरता का बजट है। ये नौजवानों को अनगिनत नए अवसर देने वाला बजट है। इस बजट से शिक्षा और स्किल को नई स्केल मिलेगी। ये मिडिल क्लास को नई ताकत देने वाला बजट है। ये जनजातीय समाज, दलित, पिछड़ों को सशक्त।
So what do we make of this budget? The speech was 86 minutes long, the shortest by Nirmala Sitharaman. Her longest was 2 hours and 40 minutes in 2020. But coming back to this year's budget, 86-minute long budget, we've put together 10 highlights for you. Number 1 is jobs, undoubtedly the buzzword for today. The finance minister brought it up 33 times in her speech. After all, job creation is one of the biggest challenges that India faces right now. It was also the election issue. So the budget speech focused on it, as did the budget allocations. The government will spend $24 billion on job creation in India over the next 5 years. The government will particularly focus on employment, skilling, MSMEs and the middle class section of the society. $24 billion or 2 lakh crore Indian rupees. Where will this money go? To 3 new programs: paid part internship, a skilling scheme and an incentive plan. For the paid internship, the government plans to rope in India's top 500 companies. They will be encouraged to hire paid interns. An intern will get an allowance of 5,000 rupees per month, and that's about $60, 5,000 rupees a month, plus a one-time assistance of 6,000 rupees, which is around $70 US. And who will pay this? Who will foot the bill? The companies, from their CSR budgets. CSR is corporate social responsibility. So the companies will pay for this scheme. The government says 100 million Indian youth will benefit from it. The second program is the skilling program. It will offer loans for upskilling. Again, this is targeted at the youth. Candidates can avail loans up to 7.5 lakh rupees. This will be facilitated by the government. But remember, it's a loan. The third program is an incentive plan, a direct benefit transfer of sorts to encourage the freshers joining the workforce for the first time. They will get 1 month's salary for up to 15,000 rupees or whichever is higher. This money will be deposited in their pension accounts. Over 2 million freshers could benefit from this. So those are the 3 programs on the jobs. Highlight number 2, that's all about education. Yes, a total of 1.48 lakh crore rupees has been allocated for education, employment and skilling initiatives. That's $1.8 billion. This is for internships, target programs for job seekers and higher education. The government plans to allocate loans for up to 10 lakh rupees for the 100,000 students. Highlight number 3 is defense. Defense has got the highest allocation amongst all the government ministries. This year's defense budget is 6.2 lakh crores, that's more than 74 billion US dollars. The government will spend more on border infrastructure, at least 30% more now. The allocation is 738 billion US dollars, and border infrastructure, remember, is also a strategic aspect. It helps to boost India's defense capabilities. Highlight number 4 is that it's a coalition budget. The BJP's top partners in the government are the Telugu Desam Party or the TDP from Andhra Pradesh and the Janata Dal United or the JDU from Bihar. Now Andhra Pradesh and Bihar, these 2 states have got significant allocations. 26,000 crores for road projects in Bihar, that's about $3 billion for airports, medical colleges and sports infrastructure in the state as well. And what about Andhra Pradesh? It will get 15,000 crores to develop Amravati, which is its capital city. That's around $1.79 billion. And so the NDA allies are being kept happy. Let's take a look at these allies and what they have to say.
आज government has made concerted efforts to fulfill the commitments in Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act. Recognizing the state's need for the capital, recognizing the state's need for ancient centers of cultural importance into future centers of modern economy. This model shall showcase Vikas B, Virasat B in a growth trajectory. We will also support development of road connectivity projects, namely 1. Patna Purnia Expressway, 2. Buxar Bhagalpur Expressway, 3. Bodh Gaya, Rajgir, Vaishali and Darbhanga spurs, and 4. Additional 2-lane bridge over River Ganga at Buxar at a total cost of 26,000 crore rupees. Power projects, including setting up of a new 2,400 megawatt power plant at Pir Painti, will be taken up at a cost of 21,400 crore rupees. New airports, medical colleges and sports infrastructure in Bihar will be constructed. An additional allocation to support capital investments will be provided. The requests of Bihar government for external assistance from Multilateral Development Bank, we will formulate a plan, Purvodaya, for the all-round development of the eastern region of the country, covering Bihar. The requests of Bihar government for external assistance from multilateral development banks will be expedited. Purvodaya. The states in the eastern part of the country are rich in endowments and have strong cultural traditions. We will formulate a plan, Purvodaya, for the all-round development of the eastern region of the country, covering Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Odisha and Andhra Pradesh. This Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act, our government has made concerted efforts to fulfill the commitments in Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act. Recognizing the state's need for the capital, recognizing the state's need for a capital, we will facilitate special financial support through multilateral development agencies. In the current financial year, 15,000 crore rupees will be arranged with additional amounts in future years. Our government is fully committed to financing and early completion of the Polavaram irrigation project, which is the lifeline for Andhra Pradesh and its farmers. This will facilitate our country's food security as well. Under the Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act, for promoting industrial development, funds will be provided for essential infrastructure such as water, power, railways and roads. In Kopparthi node on the Visakhapatnam-Chennai Industrial Corridor and Varavakal node on the Hyderabad-Bangalore Industrial Corridor. An additional allocation will be provided this year towards capital investment for economic growth. Grants for backward regions of Rayalaseema, Prakasham, North Coastal Andhra, as stated in in the act.
Highlight number 5 is the budget for the Ministry of External Affairs. It's 22,000 crore rupees or $2 billion. A big chunk of this is for financial assistance to India's partner countries. Bhutan gets the biggest share as always. It will get $240 million. Bangladesh's allocation has seen a dip from 24 million last year to 14 million this year. Same with Mauritius and Myanmar. Budget cuts for them. Sri Lanka and Nepal will get more money this time, and no change for the Maldives. They will get over $47 million. And allocation for Iran's Chabahar port is unchanged at around $11 million. So what was about the government's expenditures? That is all about the government's own expenditures. And now, let's talk about how the government earns the taxes. And that is highlight number 6. Critical minerals. Big relief on this front. 25 critical minerals have been exempted from custom duties, and this includes cobalt, copper, lithium and the rare earth elements. All of these are used to make electronics and chips. Earlier they had an import duty of anywhere between 2.5% to 10%, but now they don't. Clearly we can see the government is incentivizing production in these high-tech sectors. Highlight number 7, gold, silver and platinum are set to get cheaper. Also mobile phones, accessories and chargers. Their import taxes have been reduced. Highlight number 8 is income tax. Some changes here. Standard deduction has been hiked from 50 to 75,000 in the new income tax regime. The finance minister has also ordered a complete review of the Income Tax Act. Highlight number 9 is increase in the capital gains taxes. Both short-term and long-term investments from stocks to land and properties have been affected. You will now have to pay more tax on your profits from these instruments. The government has hiked the capital gains taxes across the board. Obviously, the markets did not like it. Both the Sensex and the Nifty closed in the red yesterday. And that brings me to highlight number 10, which is the government has abolished the angel tax, and this is a major relief for startups. Those who raise money from individual investors or angel investors, and now the startups won't have to pay any tax on angel investments. So those are the top 10 highlights for you. And now let's dig deeper into the fine print with me.
It is needed to get a job as a packed into a classroom in the Indian city of Prayagraj, students cram for a variety of tests. This includes the prestigious civil services exam, in which passing it is needed to get a job as a federal government bureaucrat. According to government figures, 220 million people applied for federal jobs between 2014 and 2022, of whom 722,000 were selected. Tens of millions of young Indians chase government jobs every year, some repeatedly, even as the private sector expands. Despite living in the world's fastest growing major economy, the trend underscores cultural and economic anxieties facing many Indians. Many grapple with an uncertain employment market, where job opportunities, let alone job security, are hard to come by. Some, like Sunil Kumar, see government employment as more secure than private sector jobs. He said he would have worked in the private sector like any common man if there was no security in government jobs. For Maruf Ahmed, who has been running a cram school in Prayagraj since 2014, this has meant good business. He says his academy currently tutors some 25,000 to 30,000 students a year across 5 branches through physical and online classes. Success rates are low, with about 5 to 10% securing jobs, but demand remains high, he said.
This is one of the worst times, as it has never happened in the past that so many students have applied for a government job vacancy announcement. There are very limited vacancies, but there is an increased number of aspirants for these government job vacancies.
Across all levels of government, including armed forces, schools, health services and the military, nearly 6 million jobs remain unfilled. India's main opposition party, the Indian National Congress, has estimated. An email to the federal government seeking data on government employment and vacancies was not answered.
So what's in this budget for women? What does this budget offer women? This budget had 4 focus groups: the poor, the youth, the farmers, and finally the women. Let's focus on the last group, women. What does this budget do for the women in India? The government already has got a number of schemes for them, so it's all about the allocation now. How much money has been set aside? This time around 3 lakh crore rupees, which is 36 billion US dollars. This money, $36 billion, will be spent on women empowerment, on their healthcare, on education, and on their upskilling. The finance minister made some specific points too. She focused on women's participation in the workforce. Setting up working women's hostels, that's one focus area, and the other focus area is self-help groups, or the SHGs. Now these are basically small groups of 15 odd people, mostly women, who come together. They pool their income sources and often produce handmade goods and strive to improve their lives. Many of these self-help groups, or SHGs, are a lifeline for Indian women. So the government obviously wants to help them give more market access to their products. A third focus is ownership of property. The finance minister had a message for the state governments: reduce stamp duty on assets bought by women. Now what does that mean? Stamp duty is basically a tax on property. When you buy or sell property, you must pay stamp duty. The finance minister says, and I quote, reduce it for women. And why is that? To encourage female ownership. The men in families tend to monopolize lands, so the idea is to break that monopoly, to incentivize women ownership. And this is very important, a very important issue in India, because land is the building block of growth. You need land for loans, you need land for houses, for a small factory, or even a production setup. We also need land for political power. Look at this report by the World Bank. I'm quoting: strong, properly enforced land rights can boost growth, reduce poverty, strengthen human capital, promote economic fairness, including gender equity, and support social progress more broadly. So land rights are very important in India. But Indian women have long been denied land rights. Look at these numbers. Around 62% Indian men own a house, and among women, just about 42%. And out of this, only 13% own the house alone, only 13% women. The remaining 29 own it jointly with someone else. Now we come to land. Around 43% men in India own a piece of land. But what about women? It's just 31%. Now you may think that the situation is worse in rural India, but that's not the case. 36% of rural women own land, but only 23% of urban women do. So your so-called city dwellers are actually worse off. Of course, stamp duty alone will not solve this problem. You need a comprehensive strategy, some legal tweaks here and there, some cultural reforms, and more education. That's the only way to improve women's land ownership. But why is this issue so important? And I don't mean just land, I mean the benefits for women. Why do budgets focus specifically on them? For 3 broad reasons. Number 1 is social justice. For centuries of patriarchy have created massive gender gaps in wages, in healthcare, and in opportunities. So every government has a responsibility to address this issue. Enter the budget. You can create targeted schemes for women. You can set aside more money, and most important, you can spell out priorities. So that's one reason. Reason number 2, the economic benefits. Women make up almost half of India's population, yet very few make it to the workforce. It's like fighting with one hand and tying the other hand behind your back. Obviously you won't win, and that's what India has been doing. Look at the rate of female participation in the workforce in this country. It was 24% at the time of independence. It rose to 33% by 1972, it remained constant for decades, and then it plunged to 23% in 2017, and then rose back again to 37% last year. So look at the period from 1972 to 2024, half a century to go from 33 to 37%, which is completely unacceptable. And in case you're wondering, the rate of men's participation, men's labor participation, is almost 77%. So we must address this problem urgently. If not, India's job problem will persist. Which brings us to reason number 3. Why focusing on women is so important. Politics. Women make up half of all the votes. They don't vote as a single political bloc, but I'm sure incentives do help. Consider the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. The BJP won a landslide victory, and one reason for that was the overwhelming support from women. No complaints though, whatever the mission, whatever the reasons, whatever the ulterior motives. Women's empowerment should be a priority for all the parties because it is not just a gender issue. It is rather a national issue.
जिस जगह अपोजिशन पार्टी चुन के आ गई, जिस जगह आपको निग्लेक्ट किया गया है या लोगों ने नकार दिया आपको, उस जगह कुछ नहीं मिला.
Just to the point that he raised, that I have not named many states. Congress party has been in power for a very long time in this country. They presented so many different budgets, and they would know clearly that in every budget, you don't get an opportunity to name every state of this country. This is a deliberate attempt of the opposition parties led by the Congress party to give an impression to the people, oh, nothing has been given to our states, it's only been given to 2 states. Cabinet has, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, passed a very important decision. It has taken the decision to set up a very big port in Vadavan in Maharashtra. Did Maharashtra get ignored because I did not mention the name of Maharashtra?
कल बजट पेश हुआ, उस बजट में किसी स्टेट को कुछ नहीं मिला और सबके थाली खाली और 2 के थाली में पकोड़ा और ये अपना जिलेबी, ये 2 छोड़ के किसी को नहीं मिला कुछ. ना तमिलनाडु को मिला, ना केरला को मिला, ना कर्नाटक को मिला, ना महाराष्ट्र को मिला, ना पंजाब, ना हरियाणा, ना राजस्थान, ना छत्तीसगढ़, ना किसी स्टेट को कुछ नहीं. दिल्ली को नहीं दिया तो मैं कितने गिनूं, ओडिशा को कुछ नहीं दिया. तो ऐसा बजट मैं कभी नहीं देखा और ये सिर्फ किसी को खुश करने के लिए, कुर्सी बचाने के लिए वो ये सब हुआ है. इसका हम कंडम करते हैं और इस ढंग से बजट पेश अगर हो गया, मैं समझता हूँ कर्नाटक से आए हैं. नहीं, कर्नाटक से आए हैं सर. हमारी तो अपेक्षा ऐसी थी सबसे ज्यादा मुझे ही मिलेगा, लेकिन इतना हमको तो कुछ नहीं मिला. तो इसका तो हम कंडम करेंगे. जिस जगह अपोजिशन पार्टी चुन के आ गई, जिस जगह आपको निग्लेक्ट किया गया.
And now we want to talk about the Indian taxpayer, or rather the people who pay income tax. Almost all Indians pay taxes. Every time we buy something, there's always the eternal goods and services tax or the GST waiting to take a cut. So almost every Indian pays taxes, but not all Indians pay taxes twice. That special privilege is reserved for about 2% of the Indian population. For those of us in the salaried class, we have the honor of supporting the nation twice over thanks to the taxes directly deducted from our salaries, and then again when we pay GST on anything and everything that we buy. Let's take a look at what our finance minister had to say about the Indian tax regime.
Please. Personal income tax. Coming to personal income tax rates, I have 2 announcements to make for those opting for the new tax regime. First, the standard deduction for salaried employees is proposed to be increased from 50,000 to 75,000 rupees. Similarly, deduction on family pension for pensioners is proposed to be enhanced from 15,000 to 25,000 rupees. This will provide relief to about 4 crore salaried individuals and pensioners. Second, in the new tax regime, the tax rate structure is proposed to be revised as follows: 0 to 3 lakh rupees, nil; 3 to 7 lakh rupees, 5%; 7 to 10 lakh rupees, 10%; 10 to 12 lakh rupees, 15%; 12 to 15 lakh rupees, 20%; and above 15 lakh rupees, 30%. As a result of these changes, a salaried employee in the new tax regime stands to save up to 17,500 rupees in income tax. Apart from these, I am also making some other changes as given in the annexure. As a result of these proposals, revenue of about 37,000 crore, that is 29,000 crore in direct taxes and 8,000 crore in indirect taxes will be foregone, while revenue of about 30,000 crore rupees will be additionally mobilized. Thus, the total revenue foregone is about 7,000 crores annually. Mr. Speaker, sir, with this, I commend the budget to this august House. Jai Hind.
आज जो बजट आया है और माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी ने जो बजट पेश किया है उसमें बिहार के लिए पैकेज का भरमार है।
मैं धन्यवाद करूंगा मेरे प्रधानमंत्री आदरणीय नरेंद्र मोदी जी का, मैं धन्यवाद करूंगा हमारी वित्त मंत्री आदरणीय निर्मला सीतारमण जी का कि उन्होंने बिहार को जिस तरीके से स्पेशल पैकेजेस देकर और मेरे लिए बिहारी होने
बात है, हम सबके लिए बहुत खुशी की बात है। और हमने अपने मेडन स्पीच में भी एक मांग रखी थी कि बिहार को स्पेशल पैकेज या विशेष राज्य का दर्जा जरूर मिलना चाहिए। 14th कमीशन के बाद अगर 14th कमीशन की रिपोर्ट जो है उसके बाद विशेष राज्य का दर्जा किसी को नहीं मिला है और जो यूनियन बजट है वो उसी पे बनता है। तो विशेष राज्य या विशेष पैकेज सिर्फ टर्म का डिफरेंस है। हमारा मांग था कि बिहार आगे बढ़े, कुछ अच्छी आर्थिक सहायता मिले जिससे हम आगे चल सके। और हम मानते हैं कि आज बहुत खुशी का दिन है क्योंकि बिहार को वो आर्थिक सहायता मिली है। अगर वो आप इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर देखें जिसमें 26,000 करोड़ का इन्वेस्टमेंट है, या आप विद्युत विभाग देखें जिसमें भागलपुर में 2400 मेगावाट का 21,000 का प्रोजेक्ट पावर प्लांट तैयार हो रहा है। इसके अलावा अगर आप फ्लड मिटिगेशन को देखें, क्योंकि बिहार फ्लड प्रोन है, नॉर्दर्न बिहार में बहुत बाढ़ की समस्या रहती है, फ्लड मिटिगेशन के लिए 11,500 करोड़ रुपए दिया गया है। इसके अलावा विमेन लेड डेवलपमेंट है, बेरोजगारी का जो मांग था जहां वहां पे युवाओं का प्रतिनिधित्व करते हैं, महिलाओं का प्रतिनिधित्व करते हैं, तो रोजगार बढ़ाने के लिए सरकार ने कदम लिया है, जिस तरह से एम्प्लॉयर और एम्प्लॉय रिलेशनशिप को मजबूत करने के लिए उन्होंने प्रावधान बनाए हैं, इस बजट में बहुत खूबसूरती से बिहार के टूरिज्म को आगे लेके जाया गया है। पटना पूर्णिया एक्सप्रेसवे जो बनेगा वो उसमें हमारी कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी भी आएगी, तो उस बात की भी बहुत खुशी है कि वो समस्तीपुर होते हुए निकलेगा। हम चाहेंगे कि वो समस्तीपुर होते हुए निकले। इसके अलावा आप देख सकते हैं कि जिस तरह से राजगीर, गया, बोध गया, नालंदा पे फोकस है टूरिस्ट विभाग का, तो ये सारी
So, to the income taxpayers, how are you feeling after yesterday's budget came out? Many of you would have been waiting with bated breath, eagerly watching for some relief. Well, guess what? Your wishes have been granted, albeit underwhelmingly. First, let's talk about the new tax slabs. Though there's a disclaimer here, this one applies to the new tax regime. Now, there are two tax regimes in India, the old and the new. They operate simultaneously. People can opt for either, but the government prefers that you move to the new one, which is why they only tweaked the new tax regime. And here are those much wanted tweaks. For people earning up to 3 lakh rupees per year, congratulations. Your taxes remain the same at 0%. You only pay GST and a random cess on everything from oil to education to cleanliness, and that is something that all of us must contribute to. People earning less than 3 lakhs a year can rest easy knowing that the taxation stops there. After that, we come to the 3 to 7 lakh bracket, 3 to 7 lakhs. Those 4 lakh additional rupees will now be taxed at 5%. The rate hasn't changed, but the slab has been expanded. It's the same scenario with the next tax slab. 7 to 10 lakh rupees will be taxed at 10%. Earlier this was for 6 to 9 lakhs, and now income up to 10 lakhs is also taxed at 10%, but the rest of the rates remain the same. Now all of this may sound complicated, so I'll try my best to simplify it as much as possible for you. Now if your salary is up to 3 lakh rupees per year, not much changes for you. If it is up to 6 lakhs, nothing changes for you. But if it is above that, you get some relief. People who make 7 lakh and above now have to pay 5,000 rupees less per year. 5,000 rupees less per year, which comes to a whopping 416 rupees less per month. Quite a princely sum. It gets better for people who make 10 lakhs and more. They save 10,000 rupees every year, or about 833 rupees per month. That's almost 2 whole 500 rupees bills extra every single month. Whatever will you do with that massive bounty? Well, you could spend it and contribute even more to the GST collections, or you could invest it in mutual funds or stocks or some other instrument. It's a way to increase your wealth and also contribute to the government at the same time. Because with this budget, both the short-term and the long-term capital gains taxes were also raised. The short-term capital gains taxes were raised to 20%, up from the earlier 15%. So whatever sum you invest, if you want to cash in your earnings in under a year, 1/5 of that goes to the government. However, if you decide to wait and hold on to your investments more than a year, you will have to pay the long-term capital gains tax instead. That is also up from 10% to 12.5%. So the government will pocket an 1/8 of your earnings. Doesn't that feel good? Knowing that you are contributing to the nation's growth every single step of the way. You remember that bridge in Bihar, the one that gets washed down away every single monsoon? Take solace in knowing that you are the one paying for it. This is the government's revenue breakdown. It is all about us, the income taxpayers, the 2% of us who pay the income tax. Add our GST contributions, our cut of the customs duties for our imported goods, our share of the excise duties, and what do you get? About 2% of the population being bled dry to keep this country going. That, dear taxpayers, is our contribution to the country. We pay taxes when we earn money, when we spend money, and even when we invest money. Wherever we go, whatever we do, the government has one hand in our back pocket. So perhaps it's time to take a closer look at where your money is going and demand that accountability for every fallen bridge, for every flooded road, for every collapsed airport, because if we are paying for all of this, we might as well get our money's worth.
पूरे बजट को
मैडम सेंटर
मैम सेंटर सीतारमन जो है वो पेश करेंगी। मैम सेंटर
मैडम 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 एक्शन ऊपर वाले मैडम मैडम यहीं पे
मैम सेंटर
मैडम एक मिनट
सर प्लीज
मैडम 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 मैडम
इस पूरे बजट को अगर मैं कह सकता हूं कि यह बजट भारत को $5 ट्रिलियन की इकोनॉमी, दुनिया के ग्रोथ इंजन के रूप में भारत की भूमिका को और विकसित भारत की संकल्पना को साकार करने का एक आर्थिक दस्तावेज के रूप में यह देश की संसद में प्रस्तुत किया गया है। 140 करोड़ जनता जनार्दन के लिए समर्पित, उनकी आशा, उनकी आकांक्षा और अमृत काल के संकल्पों को पूरा करने वाले इस बजट के लिए मैं आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के प्रति आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के मार्गदर्शन में देश की नई संसद में माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी ने देश का आम बजट प्रस्तुत किया है। यह बजट सर्वस्पर्शी, सर्वसमावेशी, विकासोन्मुख 140 करोड़ भारतवासियों की आशा, आकांक्षा और अमृत काल के संकल्पों को पूरा करने वाला सिद्ध होगा। आम बजट 2024-25 आत्मनिर्भर एवं विकसित भारत के निर्माण का एक आर्थिक दस्तावेज है। इस आम बजट में अंत्योदय की पावन भावना, विकास की असीम संभावना और नवोन्मेष की नवदृष्टि है। इस आम बजट में अन्नदाता किसानों की समृद्धि के लिए 1,52,000 करोड़ रुपए, कृषि और सहायक सेक्टर के लिए, महिला सशक्तिकरण के लिए 3 लाख करोड़ रुपए से अधिक का
first timers. This scheme will provide 1 month wage to all persons newly entering the workforce in all formal sectors. Direct benefit transfer of 1 month's salary in 3 installments to first-time employees as registered in the EPFO will be up to 15,000 rupees. The eligibility limit will be a salary of 1 lakh per month. The scheme is expected to benefit 210 lakh youths. Scheme B, job creation in manufacturing. This scheme will incentivize additional employment in the manufacturing sector linked to the employment of first-time employees. An incentive will be provided at specified scale directly both to the employee and the employer with respect to the EPFO contribution in the first 4 years of employment. The scheme is expected to benefit 30 lakh youth entering employment and their employers. We will endeavor to maintain strong fiscal support for infrastructure over the next 5 years in conjunction with imperatives of other priorities and fiscal consolidation. This year, I have provided 11,11,111 crore rupees for capital expenditure. This would be 3.4% of our GDP. Infrastructure investment by state governments. We will encourage states to provide support of similar scale for infrastructure, subject to their development priorities. A provision of 1.5 lakh crore rupees for long-term interest-free loans have been made this year also to support the states in their resource allocation. Private investment in infrastructure. Investment in infrastructure by private sector will be promoted through viability gap funding and enabling policies and regulations. A market-based financing framework will be brought out. Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. Phase measures for promotion of manufacturing and services. Internship in top companies. As the 5th scheme under Prime Minister's package, our government will launch a comprehensive scheme for providing internship opportunities in 500 top companies to 1 crore youth in 5 years. They will gain exposure for 12 months to real-life business environment, varied professions and employment opportunities. An internship allowance of 5,000 per month, 5,000 rupees per month, along with a one-time assistance of 6,000 rupees will be provided. Companies will be expected to bear the training cost and 10% of their internship cost from their CSR funds. Industrial parks. Our government.
So as the dust settled on yet another budget day, the government is busy lauding it, the opposition is busy slamming it, and India's taxpayers are back to their daily routines. They may not have gotten much, but that did not stop them from becoming creative. India's middle class found some solace on the internet with a twist of humor. Yes, there were memes all over, but the question here is more important. Although this year's budget may be generating memes and humor on the internet, are we looking at a really light-hearted situation in India? Is there nothing to be worried about? Or is India's eco-political ecosystem much more grave than what meets the eye? That's all for now in the India Budget Special. We'll keep updating you continuously on the news around it 360 degrees. Thank you for making CVR News nationwide strong. We are counting on you for support, and you can trust us to bring you the news from India and from the world, unfiltered and unvarnished. And this is Anukriti Sharma signing off for now. Keep watching CVR News Prime Time for more compelling and more persuasive stories from across the world political spectrum.